Just lots of nuggets of knowledge for everyone. I want to call on stage now our esteemed presenter, Keith Tarr, Director of the Firefly Company, who is going to share insights on digital transformation in real estate.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm just going to have a little chat about digital transformation of buildings. I remember back when I was a little boy, I used to watch Star Trek, and I watched one episode, and I remember them talking to each other via video, like a video conference. And I mean, I couldn't believe this. How can they speak in different places to each other, seeing each other, actually interacting with each other? And I just thought this concept is outrageous. And today we have cell phones in our pocket that we use on a daily basis and just look at each other while we're having conversations, and it's just the norm. Another thing is, when's the last time any of you posted a letter? I mean, I can't remember. I was explaining to my 8-year-old son that we actually had to write letters, put it in a post box and send it to someone. And today we just send an email. So again, digital is the norm. And lastly, what I wanted to ask is, how many of you actually use physical cash nowadays? I mean, unless you're in Zim, but today in the world, it's all EFTs, it's all tap payments, and it doesn't stop there. It's music, it's TV programs, it's e-books. Everything, the world today is 100% digital. So real estate is our most valuable asset. There's more than 4 billion buildings around the world. I mean, it's $300 trillion worth of value, and it makes up 75% of our assets. However, we have been slow to digitize in this area. You might ask why. So what? Why should we digitize? And one of the main reasons is missing information. How often do you have a building or you're working on a project and there's limited or no information available on hand? Another reason, inaccuracy. So you might have information on hand, but how often is it incorrect? You don't know what version of the plans you have. Nothing that you have on hand is actually accurate, so you can't actually use it. Costly site visits, especially in Africa. How many times do you have to go back to site to collect all this information, going back and forth, and then you forget something and you haven't got it all at once? Fragmented systems, we know this too well. Different formats, different systems, stored in different places, OneDrive, SharePoints. There's floor plans sitting in a room in paper format. Poor risk management. Now, without having the accurate information, this causes huge mistakes and compliance issues if you don't get this right. And one of the most important things here with digitizing your buildings is that everybody's thinking short term. You want to save costs, but it actually ends up costing you far more in the long run. So the next question people say is like, well, how do I digitize my building? One of the ways that you can digitize is use LiDAR scanning technology. So LiDAR scanning, stands for light detection and ranging. So it's one of the many ways of kind of digitizing your asset. And this LiDAR technology is using 3D scanners. You get various different types of 3D scanners. Leica, Trimble & Navis, Faro scanners, and it's similar to a car, and they cost about the same amount as a car, but you get different models and different makes. At Firefly, we use the Leica BLK 360 G2. It's a stationary scanner that you set up. It takes about 680,000 measurements per second, and it does a full oscillation in about 20 seconds while it takes 3D imaging. The range of this is about 45 meters. And it can scan. You obviously get scanners that can be handheld. You can get ones that can scan a lot further. But after you've scanned the building, each scan is then knitted together, or they call it the registration process. And you use quite powerful computers and specialized software to create a point cloud mesh, is what you guys can see on the screen now. So once you have your digital asset, your asset's now being digitized, a single point of truth for all the information. Okay? So what now? Now you can actually start pulling out the information. And the first one is actually to create a digital model. So these are 3D digital BIM models that architects use on a daily basis. Out of these, you can use it for feasibility studies, you can use it for design and construction phases, you can use it for site planning, and the list just goes on. But this is where you can actually extract accurate measurements and building plans, sections, and elevations to millimeter accuracy. From the digital model, there's a whole lot of extra information that you can pull out of this. So area measurement verifications, summary of areas, lease plans, fire plans, and all of this information comes out of the digital model. So once you have digitized your asset, then you can create a digital model and you can extract things at later stages down the line. So, but you have to have your digital asset first. One of the next things that are hugely valuable but highly underrated, because the visual records. Previously it's photography and virtual tours, and everybody thinks, oh, this is great, this is just a marketing asset. However, by combining this, once your asset's digitized and you've got the accurate measurements and everything, you can now start doing property condition reports. You're doing asset and inventory records, facility records, and inspection tours. So this is an immersive 360 record where you can actually get the physical reports, and then you can actually go into the property and walk around it in 360 and actually see where all your facilities are, and you can start tagging all of them and actually inputting information into your digital model that you've created. So this is where it becomes hugely valuable to combine it with the accuracy of the Revit models to actually having visual records of your actual property. Another thing that people use once you've got your digital record is actually to upload, and you can start doing visualization. So a lot of interior designers, a lot of off-plan selling and all of that, you can do quick and easy visualization models of this. And then last but not least, and this is something that's being collected in the background, is data libraries. So having all this information, the more buildings you scan, you're creating a whole data library of information. And what's actually happening is technology is moving so quickly. This is where it's really going to unlock in the future. This is where machine learning and AI is helping to reduce the cost of all of this and to speed up the delivery. One example I've recently seen is object recognition. So now you've scanned your building, and the AI is learning to see what objects are, so it can identify that's a door, that's a wall, this is a chair, and it can scan the internet, and it can see where this chair was bought at IKEA for, 100 Rand, 200 Rand, and then you can start creating these automated models of inventory records and all of that. So the way it's going is just technology is getting quicker and quicker, and it's just going to be more and more valuable. So we need to stay up to date. But the first thing that I need to say is you need to have your digital model of your building. We were looking at some of the panelists earlier, and they're talking about green buildings and redeveloping precincts, but you don't know unless you have the assets that are digitized. Because that's the biggest thing is people say, this is great, we want to go do this, but you don't have accurate information. When you have all of these and it's digitized, the other next thing is to have it in one platform or one area. Because so often you get people to do things, you've got a COC sitting over here, you've got a floor plan over here, and this is where you can create platforms where you can actually extract the data and the information, and it's easy to use. I'm going to give you a little bit of example of a property that we captured just to end off here in Cape Town. It's quite an old building. It was built in 1898, but they bought it on auction, and it's not only a heritage building, it's a national monument. So now they asked us to come in and actually capture the building, because it also came with a whole lot of furniture. So we did an asset record. They also want to develop it, but they've got huge restrictions because of the heritage and the national monument. So they wanted to know, what do they have on site? They needed marketing materials. So this is actually called a Gaussian splat, which is similar to photogrammetry. So take thousands of photos and you actually stitch it all together, and that's actually a 3D photographic model that you can turn into point cloud. And then what we did, we actually scanned the whole site with LiDAR. So these are thousands. Just this exterior was 10.9 billion scan points, and it's all measurements. So out of this, you can get all the information according to measurements and accuracy of that. But it just shows you about the 3D element of this scanning. Just with LiDAR scanning, just to mention, it's what you see. So it doesn't go through floors and through walls. So electric runs and sewage pipes, you can't actually see it. But from there, we've gone into the virtual tour. So this is the visual record. So now you can walk around, you can get an idea of the space and where you are. But now you're taking this virtual record, which is previously used for marketing, and you can actually start putting tags in the actual virtual tour. So what we've done with just this one, you can tag your facilities item, it can pop in, you can see kind of the condition, you can list all of them. You've got a wayfinder, so you can easily navigate around the property, and you can easily move. So again, it gives you a way around. And then this is the digital model that's turned into your Revit model, and this is accurate. So this is what all the architects use, and you can, I mean, this is just the pieces of the model that are made up. And from that, you can get your accurate 2D plans, and there's your CAD plans. And then ultimately, that's where the property is, because you can also geolocate your properties, and it actually shows you where the property is today. So, yeah, just in summary, digital transformation of assets becoming more and more important. I mean, the real estate industry is very slow to kind of adopt to this, but you can start seeing that it's unlocking all the necessary information, and the massive thing is the cost saving. People are scared to pay for this up front, and they say, where am I getting my value? Where am I unlocking, the value out of it? But what it is actually saving your cost saving down the line for inaccurate measurements, inaccurate information, and then actually storing this digital. And this is where it also comes into the ESG and making the green side of things. Thank you very much.